everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Orange Crow 55. I want to welcome a friend of the channel, Mr. Disney Family Man 23, George. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I appreciate coming on again, man.
Thanks for having me on. It's always great to have these conversations, and you have so many identities. You just don't know who you are. One day you're Orange Nerd, and you're Orange Grove 55. You got a lot going on, but you know what? I enjoy all the content on the channel.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. The multiverse of Orange Grove madness.
Yeah.
but in this video.
That's pretty much a glass of orange juice right there.
There you go. Cheers. So in this video, we're going to talk about two things. We're going to dive into Pixar, what's happening with Pixar, and we're also going to dive in a little bit with like what does the fan community want from Disney in regards to theme parks. So, but first on the list, let's talk about Pixar because I know you're passionate about this topic, and you know. There's been a lot of heat, a lot of backlash, from fans in regards to how Disney is treating Pixar. Onward was kind of a hybrid theater / Disney Plus because of the pandemic. I think everyone kind of understood that. That was right when the pandemic hit. But then they announced that Soul was going to be Disney Plus exclusive, right? And that's when everyone's kind of ears perked up a little bit. And then they announced Luca was also going to be a Disney Plus exclusive. And it's got fans talking like, what's going on with Pixar? Why is Disney why don't they have the faith in Pixar right now to put these films in theaters like Black Widow or like, Raya, The Last Dragon? What are your thoughts on this, George?
Well, it kind of stems back, and honestly, to even mention, his name, but he's part of actually the story of what's going on. And I think it stems back with John Lasseter. And I think when John was ahead of both companies at the time, Walt Disney Animation and Pixar, he kind of had an algorithm, sort of speak, the way that he wanted the companies to flow. And not to get into too much detail of, the backstory of why he ended up getting kind of like furloughed out of the company and then gracefully left in time after being a consultant with Pixar, that I think it almost kind of put a damper on of how people kind of view Pixar. And then because long time part of the very beginning when Pixar was first created, Lee Unkrich ended up leaving the studio right after he was done with Coco. And a lot of people say that, he was, leaving for, to spend time with his family, take a break. And that could very well be so. But just after John left Pixar as being a consultant, I mean, it's pretty much a done deal that Lee left because, that was his mentor. They all started this company together. It was literally the company that could,
Right.
With the help with Steve Jobs. And then after Steve's passing, Pixar went through a lot of ups and downs. And I think that was sort of kind of the nail in the coffin, that after Lasseter left, that it almost kind of tarnished a little bit of the company's overall aspect of what fans want out of it. And I think it kind of started with Onward with that, because even before the pandemic, Onward was already scheduled out into theaters before the pandemic hit. And it didn't really do so well. It was okay. It was just okay. And I think Disney kind of said, well, it was already out in theaters. The pandemic hit. No one expected anything. Let's just put it on for free. And that's what they did. So no one really took anything of it. And then when Soul came out and now the upcoming Luca, it's showing a pattern. And I think Disney as a whole kind of lost faith in Pixar, because for a long time, after The Lion King was released by Disney and Toy Story was released that following year, Pixar was the headliner for animation. They started the nuance of computer animation, which led to DreamWorks and Illuminations. They followed Pixar, and even Disney Animation followed suit with Pixar. And I just think that with Disney at the helm, pretty much without, because of how they wanted it. They wanted Pixar to stay Pixar and Disney to be Disney, but it's starting to kind of show that Disney has the full reins on Pixar. And that's for which, even with now what we're seeing with Monsters at Work.
Right, exactly. And, look, I love Pete Docter. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'll be 100% honest. I mean, I actually prefer Pete Docter's movies over John Lasseter's. I mean, on a creative level, on just a pure enjoyment level, I actually really, really love Pete Docter's work. But I will give credit to John Lasseter in that I think John Lasseter had a better eye for what the masses wanted, what the general public wanted. I feel like he was more in tune with how to create a mega hit, a blockbuster, a summer blockbuster, where Pete Docter is very much an artiste. He's very much like when you watch like the shorts from Pixar, like they're very like niche and they're very like artsy. It's like Pete Docter is sort of creating hour-and-a-half versions of those kind of subject material, very artsy, very niche. And I just think, I just don't think Disney has the faith in it for like mass marketing, like the Lasseter films, which were very marketable and what have you. You mentioned Monsters at Work. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up real quick. Now, if you guys notice here, there's no Disney Pixar. It's Disney Monsters at Work. And there's a reason for that. I kind of reached out to a few people and what's going on? Well, apparently Pixar is kind of consulting. I guess they're sort of in charge of the look of the characters, the world building. But this new show coming to Disney Plus is spearheaded and ran by Disney Animation's television group. It's not a Pixar, technically not a Pixar production. That's wild. And I'm surprised this is not making more news.
And honestly, you would think it would, because if you kind of go back, I don't know if you ever saw the documentary, The Pixar Story.
I didn't.
Okay. It's actually I'm trying to remember what it was on. I think it's on Netflix, I believe. It's either on Netflix or Hulu. And it tells the origin story of how Pixar became Pixar, how it started as just a computer software company, worked with Lucasfilm, and eventually became the mega success animation studio that it is today. Well, during that documentary, it touches upon a point when the contract between Disney and Pixar was coming to an end. Disney was going to take the rights of the characters, of the stories, and make direct-to-video sequels. And Pixar didn't want that. They were clashing heads because they felt that was their characters. Those were their stories that they created. But Disney still kind of owned those rights to it because of the marketing and distribution of it. And it wasn't until Iger came on board after Michael Eisner left and went to Hong Kong and saw that majority of the characters in the parades were the Pixar characters, primarily from Toy Story. And so he set up a meeting with Steve Jobs and Lasseter and Ed Catmull, and they pretty much made a deal where, again, Pixar could be Pixar, Disney can be Disney, and that's when Disney bought Pixar for, I think it was $7.4 billion. And so that's where it's kind of interesting, because this actually kind of shows the way of how it almost was when Disney and Pixar's contract was almost up after Toy Story 2.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, George.
I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. I'm sorry. Not Toy Story 2. After The Incredibles.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be completely honest with you in regards to this whole situation going on with like the direct to Disney Plus stuff, Pixar being sidelined with their new show, makes me very nervous. And I don't want to sound like Chicken Little, so to speak. Sky is falling, but I'm just nervous because I do love Pixar, and just kind of thinking out loud, it makes me wonder. I hope Disney's not thinking like, well, you know what? We don't really have a need for two animation studios. we can kind of transition Pixar out and kind of bring everyone into the fold under that Disney animation umbrella. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I don't think so. But I just see too many things happening right now to sideline and kind of push Pixar back that it worries me. It worries me, like, what's the bigger plan? Why are they sort of minimalizing Pixar? It scares me. It really does.
It's actually my concern too, because as I just mentioned, it's kind of showing of how it was supposed to go back in 2004. 2004 is when the contract, or 2005, right after The Incredibles, it was supposed to end. The contract was finalized by Disney and Pixar right as the movie Cars was hitting into theaters in 2006. So, I mean, for about 15 years, Disney and Pixar have been kind of together harmoniously, but now it's just kind of showing signs of how Disney is kind of wanting to leave Pixar in the dust. And it does make me wonder that if they kind of want to do, and I hate using this term, sort of kind of like a hostile takeover sort of thing.
Right.
But not really, because they're all part of the same company. But I just wonder if they want to drop the Pixar brand name and just make it all Disney.
I'm worried about that too. And I think there's a lot going on here too, in terms of, like, in 2006, when Bob Iger took over, Pixar was like the number one brand at Disney. I mean, it was a hot commodity. Lots changed since then, even outside of animation. Disney has bought a lot of heavy hitting brands since they bought Pixar. They bought Lucasfilm, Star Wars, one of the biggest franchises of all time. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, again, right now, probably the biggest brand of all time, at least for Disney, arguably ever. I mean, the MCU is massive. They have all these brands now, even Fox, where Pixar is sort of just like another subsidiary. It's not 2006 anymore. Pixar isn't the big dog on campus anymore. You're starting to see it. They definitely are. They are playing more of a back seat, and it's sad. I just hope, I just hope it normalizes where Pixar can start releasing stuff into theaters again, and they start to get the recognition they deserve. Because I think it's a great studio, and I think it's necessary, because you don't want to have everything under the Disney animation umbrella, because you want to be able to have the freedom to kind of do other stuff. And Pixar is a different studio. It's a more modern studio. So you can do different subject material than you can do with Disney animation, which is more of a storybook studio,
Exactly. And you actually made a good point there that, yeah, after the many years and the many acquisition deals that Disney has made with Lucasfilm and Marvel, and yeah, Pixar became sort of like in part of the backseat caddy, so to speak, because even as you said, with the animation in general, because even with the Walt Disney Studios, majority of their hits have been coming from the live action remakes. That's where a lot of so to Disney, they even put their animation studio kind of on the back burner compared to Lucasfilm, Marvel, and their live action. But if they had to pick and choose to say, well, are we going to put Disney animation fully at the back, or are we going to put Pixar? We're going to put Pixar. That's like how Disney's thinking. And it's one of those things where they kind of all have to feed off of one another. And I think that's where Disney is trying to find the balance. Is they're kind of they're putting all their eggs in one basket, so to speak. It's like they really kind of like divide it up. And it kind of worries me, because even if you look at some of the Disney animation films that are coming out with, like Raya and the Last Dragon, and some of the other, or even I forget the other one that came out of Disney animation, but there was a few of them that they kind of have that Pixar quality feel to them. It's something that I would more so see in Pixar. So even to Disney animation, they're kind of going out of their storybook fairy tale critique. And that's, again, what's worrying me. Because, again, if they're going to be taking over all of that, then that leaves nothing for Pixar.
Yeah. It's a tough call. It's a tough call. I just hope my heart goes out to all the Pixar employees. I hope this kind of adjusts and fixes itself. I think it will. I'm the forever optimist, but I am concerned. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We will definitely.
Let me ask you this really quick before we move on. It says Disney for Monsters at Work. Did it say anything about the Cars spinoff series that's coming to Disney Plus?
I haven't heard anything of that. No.
Because now what they're actually going to do is they're making a Cars series, and they're also going to listen to this. They're adding the characters from Disney Planes into the Cars spinoff. And Planes came from the Disney Toon Studio.
Right.
Before it closed.
Weird. See, a lot of weird stuff going on right now. I don't want to be alarmist. But there's definitely enough going on right now that makes my antenna go up.
Yeah.
And I'm worried for Pixar, but we'll see. Hopefully it turns out fine.
Yeah. Right. Right now with Monsters at Work, my antennas are going up. But if the Cars spinoff comes out and it just has Disney and no Pixar, then it's going to be sending some radar to outer space here. It's like
it'll be very, very interesting. So I wanted to pivot now to our last topic, which is the parks, and I want to kind of give you my viewpoint on the fan expectations, or what the general fan community wants, and then I want you to kind of chime in and tell me what you feel. But I've noticed this a lot lately. Years ago, there was this narrative amongst the theme park community. The Disneyland Resort specifically is too crowded. Disney needs to do something in regards to the crowds at the Disneyland Resort. So Disney's approach to kind of thinning the crowds was to raise prices. So Disney would go raise prices, and sometimes the price increases would be very steep. When they would increase prices to kind of thin the crowds, you immediately heard fans push back. Whoa, wait a minute. Disney should be affordable for everybody. Everybody should be able to go to Disneyland, right? So it was kind of contradicting messages. It was, we want lesser people, but don't raise prices because everyone should come in. Everyone should be available to come into Disneyland. Then we're now seeing this again kind of rear its head. It's like, well, for years I've heard that Disney needs to limit the amount of annual pass holders. Well, now they've eliminated the pass holder program. And it's like, from the fans, it's immediately, well, what are you doing? Why are you getting rid of annual passes? Why are you limiting annual pass holders? Again, it's contradicting. We've seen this over and over and over again, where fans want really affordable tickets. They want access all the time for very cheap, but they want no crowding. And even the boarding passes, fans complain about 3, 4, 5 hour waits for new rides. So Disney introduces the boarding pass system. Well, we don't want that either. We don't want to make a reservation. We'd rather wait in line. It's contradicting messages. So what I want to ask you, George, is, because in my opinion, I feel like the Disney fan community has no idea what they want. It's very clear we're a rudderless ship, and Disney, as a fan, I don't know what the fans want. Disney clearly has no idea. We are all over the map. And I feel like the Disney fan community needs to really sharpen their message and really give Disney, what do we want? What do we want? Because realistically, we can't have a situation where Disneyland tickets cost $35, everyone gets an annual pass, and there's no crowding. It's not realistic, you guys. So, George, what are your thoughts on the fan expectations and just the messaging from the fan community to Disney? What are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, first I have to say, I actually have to admit, as a diehard Disney fan, I don't even know what I want. It's like I don't know which way to go, and I think that's where we're kind of all in that same boat.
Right.
And I think everyone's opinions are kind of giving Disney, as you said, that mixed messaging sort of vibe, because Disney was always a type of vacation where it customized and yet catered to each individual based on your vacation needs. Whether you're a family of 4, whether you're a couple, or whether you're going solo, Disney has a way of creating magical vacation memories based off of how you vacation with them. And I think it just became, with social media, with the world population, getting much bigger, and it becoming that, I mean, they weren't kidding when they said it's the #1 tourist destination in the world, not the country, the world. So fans have to understand that when you say something like it is the #1 tourist destination in the world, everyone from all four corners of the globe are coming to Disney. And I'm not even just saying Walt Disney World. I'm even going to say Disneyland. And I'm sorry, fans and viewers that are listening, I can actually jump on the boat with Orange Grove and say, I can't foresee someone saying that Disneyland is just a locals park, because I saw the video from blogmickey.com of the rope drop at Disneyland Park. That didn't look like just locals to me. Like there were like crowds of people shoulder to shoulder. And that is still with a theme park reservation. And at capacity, and yet it was shoulder to shoulder. So if they're at 35% capacity of what they're at now, you need a theme park reservation. They're not even at 100% yet, not till, I believe, July 1st, or they may be going up to 50 or 75%. I don't really know, but I know July 1st, Disneyland is raising its capacity. You can't say that it's too crowded, because Disney yet tried to fix the problem with that.
Right.
So what if they took the theme park reservations away? What if they raised capacity back up to 100? It would be more crowded than what it is right now. And then you have these 3 to 4 hour lines that people are waiting for an attraction. Well, why doesn't Disney come up with a system where you can reserve a spot without going in? Well, that's what a boarding pass is.
Right.
So now, to speak for the fans, I do wish that Disney would create a better system for a boarding pass, and not where everyone jumps on at one time and then boom, it crashes the server and then it's done for the rest of the day. I do think Disney should create a better system on that, sort of kind of like how Universal does their Express Pass. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, I think it's just more so it's a big contradiction that when people say, well, I want this, but I also want this as well. It's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want $35 price tickets, expect everyone and their grandmother to be there.
Right.
It's
exactly. You're spot on. I mean, you can't. As fans, we have to sacrifice something. Like either you have to sacrifice it being crowded, or you're going to have to sacrifice having to do reservations or having a high price point. You can't have it all ways. We can't have cheap tickets, annual passes for everybody. Everything's super affordable. And hey, look, every time I go to the park, Rise of the Resistance is only a 10-minute wait. It's never going to happen. You have to have some sort of sacrifice, in order to get one or the other. Now, for me, I would personally rather pay a little more to have a less crowded park. That's just me personally. Some people would rather have the crowded park with the cheaper tickets, but there has to be some give here. We can't have it all ways. And fans really need to sharpen their message, because Disney does listen, believe it or not. Like we saw what happened. You did a great video on this with the Ohana noodles. They do listen when fans have a clear, concise message. But right now, especially for Disneyland, we have no message. It's all over the map. We want tickets for cheaper, but we don't want any people in the park. It's all over. It's a mess.
And that's basically Disney delivering what the fans are. So if the fans aren't clear of what they want, everything's going to be scattered.
Right.
If they picked one subject matter and said, hey, we want our annual passes. We want them to come back. Let's voice it out. Let's go to social media, especially with Twitter. Disney is heavily on Twitter.
Yeah.
That if you create a petition, if you voice out your opinion and you get a lot of likes, a lot of comments, Disney does listen and they watch and they take that into account. So it was a matter of 24 hours when they added that back on the noodles back onto the menu. Literally 24 hours when that petition went out. It was out in an hour, and they already had over 1,700, I believe, signatures on that.
Absolutely. And you made a great point, George, when it comes to voicing your opinion on Twitter. Even things like tagging Bob Iger's Twitter to your tweet. Now, of course, you want to be respectful, okay? Be polite and respectful when you do this, because they're not going to take you seriously if people are going to rant and rave on Twitter. Like you have to do it in a respectful, professional manner. But Bob Iger is on Twitter. He wants to hear from you guys. Like, tag him, say, hey, Mr. Iger, hey, look, this is how we think we can improve this. Or what if you brought this back? I think he wants to hear from fans. He's liked a few of my tweets that have been like that. So he's fair. He's listening. He's reading your tweets. So do so in a respectful way, professional way. Tag him, though, and let him know. Let your voice be heard, because like George said, they do watch Twitter. And the chairman of the company, he's still within the Walt Disney Company, is actually on Twitter pretty regularly. You have a direct connection. You can tag him and you can tell him exactly how you feel. And again, do it respectfully, though. Don't go after him.
Yeah, yes, because there are a lot of fans out there that are so passionate that they lash out at the company and they say, Disney is trash, Disney is junk, they don't know what they're doing anymore. They're not going to listen to that.
No.
They're not going to pay. But I mean, if you have a full-hearted concern and opinion and you say, hey, I am very upset and disappointed with this. We were planning a trip and we wanted it to be kind of like this or kind of like that. And you make it a petition or have other people's opinions tagged with you.
Right.
They will listen.
They will absolutely listen. We've seen example of this over and over and over again. I mean, even a few years ago, there was a huge, again, I wouldn't say outrage, but there was it was like the Ohana noodle thing when it came to the Aladdin show. And I think they actually extended the Aladdin show at DCA for a little bit because of that outcry, because so many fans came out and said, we love the Aladdin show. We love the Aladdin show. Now, eventually they did get rid of it, but it extended its life, I think, like another year or so, if I'm not mistaken. But they do listen. As long as you voice your opinion in a respectful way and you're doing it constructively, they will listen. So we just have to, as a fan community, have to sharpen our message and let them know exactly what we want. This whole thing about we want tickets available for everyone, every man, woman, and child should be able to afford Disney parks, but we don't want anyone in the park. We want it completely not crowded. We want to wait 10 minutes for everything. It's not realistic, you guys. Yeah. We have to pick and choose what's important to us and really zero in on that message.
And that would be a great poll. I think if that would be a poll to have on Twitter, just as a straightforward, which way would you rather have it? Cheap tickets, more crowds, or expensive tickets, less crowds? And I would really like to see what that poll would be.
Yeah.
And one would kind of be on the higher end. And then whatever that one would be, you tag it, you share it, have people, comment on it, and the majority would roll, and then maybe it would get back to Disney, and they may consider saying, hey, let's go this route then. Because Disney is trying to cater to everyone, but it's turning out into a mess because, as you said, the Disney fan community can't make up their minds of really what they want, and you can't have it all. And
right.
It's just theoretically impossible to have $35 tickets, less people in the park, annual passes available, cheap annual passes, fast passes available, no boarding groups, no theme park reservations. But again, everyone, you have to still have a limit on buying those $35 tickets. It's like,
you can't do it. You just can't do it. They don't know which way to go because the fan community is constantly pushing or pulling them in a different direction. For years, all I've heard was that the park was too crowded, too many annual pass holders, and Disney needs to do something about it. They need to address it. And every single time they've tried to address it through price hikes or other means, the fans have pushed back on that. And it's like, you just can't win. And I can understand the frustration within the company. And I'm part of the fan community. So I want our voices to be heard as you do. We want to be heard. We want to improve things. We just have to really have a laser focus as to what we want and let them know. And it's like the Star Wars community, you know, the Star Wars fandom is the same thing. It's like herding cats. Like it's like everyone has a different idea of what Star Wars really is. And no one agrees on anything. It's a mess. But brother George, I appreciate you coming on today. I really do. If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. Again, thanks for having me on. It was great to be on and have these discussions with you. I enjoy it immensely. But I'm George, also known as Disney Family Man 23. That's my YouTube channel. Please go check it out. I have content coming out sporadically throughout the week. You know, whenever I can get it out, definitely check that out. I'm also active on Instagram and Twitter at Disney George. And you could also listen to me and my fellow podcasters on the Grand Circle Tour podcast.
Perfect. Thank you, George, for coming on, and subscribe to Disney Family Man 23. He does great stuff. Like, he has a lot of stuff on his channel that I don't have on mine because I'm a Disneylander. I'm a California guy. So George has a lot of Florida stuff, a lot of Walt Disney World. If you're into Walt Disney World, or if you're local at Walt Disney World, he's got that. He's got the Disney cruises. So he's much more East Coast, Florida based, which is cool. It's a different perspective. So definitely check him out and give him a subscribe. You're up to what, 50 subs now?
I'm up to 50.
Let's get this man to 100. Let's get him up to 100.
We'll have a toast. We'll have a toast when I hit 100.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you all for watching. We do appreciate it. Comment below. What are your thoughts on what's going on with Pixar, this whole thing with Monsters at Work and Luca? What are your thoughts on what the fan community wants from Disney parks? You know, honing in on that message. I would love to hear from you guys. Thank you all very much for watching. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.